Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the Duval Dive. Of course, I'm Kyle Nash, the student of the game.
And I'm Travis Holmes with BigCatCountry.com.
You're listening to this thing on the Believe Podcast Network. Travis D. Holmes, I have to tell you, first of all, coming fresh off of a fantastic conversation on the stream from Wednesday with JP Acosta. There's so much you and I like each other. I'm not saying you're beefing with me. I don't mean it like that. I mean, that's happened on the show on occasion because we are a family, but like I don't think we're done going through all the different draft threads and all of that. Because, and you loosely alluded to it when we were talking to JP on Wednesday. About
it was an hour conversation with JP Acosta. I couldn't put that man through an hour and a half. We had to cut it short.
Well, but listen, and he probably would have stayed with us, but he had family. Listen, I get it. I don't need him on the bad side with any of the special people in his life. I ain't trying to do that. So we want him to come back to the dive because he's obviously great when he's here. But you loosely mentioned something to JP Acosta, which I meant to respond to at the time and really didn't. And it's the national media's draft grading of the Jags. And let me tell you why it means precisely Jack to me. We've established on this show, mostly to Richard Sherman's credit, shall we say, others as well, Kevin Wilds, other people out there in the national space. Yes, I'm naming names and standing on business on this one, Travis. They, for a time, made it cool to talk the ish on the Jaguars. Hey, I don't even watch the Jaguars, and yet somehow I'm supposed to give a single solitary beep about what you think about the Jaguars draft. Now, I'm not going to play the Frank Vogel because I think that's a bridge too far. I'm not trying to be that petty here. But why do I care about their thoughts on the Jaguars draft when, hey, like days in, they didn't have them winning 13 games. And they didn't have any idea about any of the other stuff that was going on because they weren't watching them. So what do they know about Jimmy Stones and Liam Coen and all of the above? I'm just saying.
Oh, that's interesting. I mean, it's not a bad take. The national media generally are going to be a little bit late on getting on whatever's happening in Jacksonville, because unfortunately, like we found out in the season, they are very much bandwagoners across the board. Like if they get on board, it's because you've already won 11 games straight or something along those lines,
or improved by 9 games. Oh wait.
Yeah. So that's you're not wrong in that philosophy. Like at that point, they're not people who are on the ground. They're not going to be on the forefront and trying to figure out the small things that's happening with Jacksonville. They're not going to know the intricacies. They're not going to be aware that the Rams and the Jaguars and the Detroit Lions are all kind of following that same front office philosophy, all from Les Snead. Like they're not aware of those things. So then they're going to be a little bit behind, like they were a little bit behind with those two teams. And that's the interesting part about it, is like talking about teams swaying against the consensus board and all of this conversation that's been happening that caused JP Acosta to mute the word on his socials.
For the record, I saw that and had to tweet it out there too, which, by the way, as an aside, champion, I have to say, that there's a reason why I tweeted that. That's not just a good idea. That's a public service announcement at this point to ban the words consensus draft.
No, but I wrote about it over on BigCatCountry.com. I wanted to make sure I always give that pimp that information. Just obviously that the consensus board stated, the Jaguars made basically every pick other than, for the most part, 2 that went against the consensus, which 3 of the picks showing that they were basically rated as undrafted free agents, 4 if you believe the wide left big board. So overall, it's just the media and the NFL people kind of have their different feelings on how the rosters should have been built based on their generalized assessment of these skill sets of these players, not the individual needs of the individual team, which James Gladstone said in his post draft presser. Nevertheless, we're here where we are. The draft grades come out. Not great as you expect. Not great, Bob.
Not great, Bob. Yeah, exactly.
Yes, Sleeper Jaguars put the grades on X Big Cat Country. We have an article written, on the site showing you all the different grades from all the different places with the quick blurb for each of them. But the Sleeper Jaguar summary, not a lot of love for Duval. ESPN gave him a C, NFL.com with a B, which is probably the best you could hope for with this draft class, honestly. Associated Press with a C, Sports Illustrated D, Bleacher Report also, and Yahoo Sports and US Today all had the Jaguars with a D. Pro Football Focus with a D
D's
plus.
for Duval, right? Like they're hyping it
D
up.
for Duval,
obviously. No, okay.
Duval D's at Duval Education. Yeah, that's it. And CBS Sports with a C plus. So again, all across the board, but for the most part, you're looking at C's and D's for the Jaguars in this draft class. But we talked about it in great detail on now 3-4 podcasts, how the fact that folks are really split on what this draft class is, and that's reasonable. That makes sense. But like I was saying earlier, with the fact that the Detroit Lions are in that same, like they follow that same, they move the same ways as Les Snead, because Brad Holmes, the general manager for the Lions, came from the Rams. He was executive with the Rams. So I always think it's real interesting when I say folks like bandwagoning, they're hopping on after the fact. Folks did not like how Les Snead ran the Rams when they first got there. But then you win a Super Bowl that quick, nobody cared. So you get to the Super Bowl that quick, nobody cares.
What a great point.
Right. Same thing with same thing with the Lions. I wish we'd have had this conversation with JP, but we just didn't have time. Again, we were over an hour. You got people giving the Lions an F on a draft that resulted in Brad Holmes becoming executive of the year that year. And folks forget that. He was actually executive of the year 2 years straight. And
and by the way, just reading this off the top with no necessarily personal offense made to Charles McDonald. What jumps off the page, taking Alabama running back Jahmyr Gibbs with 12th overall in a year they signed David Montgomery, felt extremely rich. You feel extremely dumb right now, don't you? Because even I, terrible draft scout Kyle, loved the Jahmyr Gibbs pick. But go ahead, sir.
But that was the point, though. Like, they got an F in the draft class where they picked up Jahmyr Gibbs and Sam Laporta over Michael Mayer. Like, the fact is, they got an F.
And you still pissed. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
They got an F in that class. Meanwhile, in that same draft, nearly every single major publication gave the Giants an A when they traded up for cornerback Deonte Banks and center John Michael Jingleheimer-Smith. I always gotta add the Jingleheimer. And they took Jalen Hyatt. That draft, you recognize any of those three names doing anything moderately big? I mean, maybe Deonte Banks a little bit. They traded up for Deonte Banks.
Yeah, well,
those were their first three picks, and they got A's across the media. So those were all based on consensus boards. So if you're catching my drift right now, Detroit Lions, LA Rams, Jacksonville Jaguars, they're generally not going to follow the consensus boards outside of maybe the first round. If you're getting a middle round pick, for the most part, they're going to do things their own way. And for the most part, the consensus boards aren't going to like it. And the normal national media are generally just not going to like it. Y'all got to get on board with that. Y'all got to be fine with that. Be okay being the villains until these Johnny come latelys kind of hop on after the fact.
Well, and that's the part that I find interesting the most, and not to put you on the carpet, Duval divers, but too many of all be sounding like them. I don't know who Nate Boerkercher is. Okay, and listen, I get it, but there's I find it funny in our comment section, not because I'm dissing you guys, because you're the smartest comment section within the Jaguar space, not among the best ones in the NFL, and I am not exaggerating. Don't you dare throw up the BTJ alert there, Travis. But there's too many of you that sound like the national media. That might be part of why I'm worried about you. You know, you're sounding like dudes that don't watch the games like you do. So I have questions. Yeah.
But I think that's some of it, though. It's like a lot of these guys, they want to be treated positively by the national media. They want to because they consider those even the big time guys the ball knowers, and if you consider them the ball knowers, then you need them to speak positively on your team. And if they're even split on your team, or worse, they didn't watch it and they're just downing your team, then you're going to be like, oh, I guess they really screwed up because I don't have the time to personally watch, 100 hours of film because I have a full-time job and kids and everything. Like, I get why folks have that. They don't know enough. They just know what the people are telling them. So I'm telling you, as somebody who's watched film on every single one of these guys, I'm a little bit split on the valuation part of the conversation, but I'm not split at all about who they drafted. I see what they think they got from them skill set wise, and hopefully it's going to work out with how they use them. But that's going to come down to development of the coaches on the field. But I can see what they're trying to go for, and hopefully it works out well, like that Lions draft class or like the Jaguars 2023 class that fans for the most part hated. We'll see, but that's kind of where we are. But the other part of the conversation was like, I saw that Jordan Duuuval put a dope tweet on the Gen Jag. Jordan Duuuval put out dope tweet talking about the Senior Bowl, Shrine Bowl on the socials, basically saying that the Jaguars saw Caleb Bransall play safety in the Senior Bowl last year, and they drafted him just to do that. And then they saw Wesley Williams rush from the interior at the East-West Shrine Bowl, and I believe that they're going to ask him to do that too, which I thought was a really key statement because I agree with him 110%. And shout out Jen Jag. I think he should be on the pod sometime over the next 2 weeks, I believe.
We are working. We are talking to Jordan.
Talking about that right now. Yeah, so I thought it was interesting just because the fan base right now, the fan base, and I'm talking to the fan base about the fan base. So y'all know if you hit dog, holler. If I ain't talking about you, then don't worry about it. We good. But
there's been a lot of. I think that's what you're trying to say.
Right, you're right. I ain't talking to you. I'm talking. My old pastor used to say, I ain't talking to you. I'm talking to your neighbor. I say neighbor. Yeah, that's it. There's been a lot of people who have honestly just been crashing out on the socials about things that I think are pretty commonplace. Like, I think they're pretty normal things. Like, for instance, I've seen a lot of people being mad about the Jaguars trend to draft older prospects. Like, specifically, one person mentioned the fact that the Jaguars normally they just lean too strong into drafting guys from the bowl game circuit, like the Shrine Bowl and the Senior Bowl.
And make sure you clarify that, Travis, because it's not like some other watch scouts do ignore good players, right?
Yeah.
Because they're not in a bowl, and we've seen that happen, and it's usually for teams that aren't as good, right? But you mean specifically all-star games, right?
The all-star circuit.
Yeah,
that's what I'm talking about. Like, this draft class, the Jaguars exited the draft with 5 of their 10 selections being players who played in the Shrine and the Senior Bowls. They also picked up 2 additional from undrafted free agency. So, I mean, you're talking 7 guys overall. But also, from my understanding, at least, like 80%, or if it's not 80, it's like 80 to 70% of Senior Bowl participants normally get drafted. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like I think folks are getting mad about it because folks are just mad about the draft class, but not that it's necessarily abnormal, if that makes sense.
So let's hit the older prospects things first, because you and I have both talked about that on this show. Older prospects, the reason why that happens is because it's theoretically less time to develop them, right? You ain't got to worry about, teaching them where to line up, or, you don't need to be worried about what they're doing out there in the streets during training camp, blah, 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 whatever, right?
Right.
That whole concept, there's something to that. I would also add, and I think you're the one that explained this to me, Travis, in particular, let's use RJ Harvey as an example. Yeah, I know the Jags beat him, sure, but he was still a big part of that Denver Broncos team, right? Even though allegedly Cam Scadaboo was supposed to be the better running back, according to who you talk to, it was RJ Harvey that was the bigger impact overall because A, he stayed healthy, but B, he's more developed as a body, not getting hurt, and more versatile. Why? He had more time to learn the skills. And the other advantage, and this is the cold hard cash version, and I'd almost hate to bring this up, and this isn't just particular to running backs necessarily, but if you draft a player with who's 23 instead of the prerequisite 21 or 22, his second contract, he's in his prime, And you don't have to necessarily pay for a third one.
Right.
And that's the element. That's the dirty secret in part of the franchise management and the fiscal. Is that very, shall we say, cold in analysis? Absolutely. But it's a fact of the case, in my opinion.
I think you might be 100% right. And again, if you don't re-sign them in the middle of their prime, then you're just going to get a comp pick. Maybe if you want to play that game.
Oh, yeah, and if you don't, if you have the opportunity to trade him in his prime, you'll get more for him if he's an asset that's not fitting on your team, for sure. Right.
There you go.
Let's look at the Patriots with Ty Law, Lawyer Malloy, Richard Seymour. Anyway.
Yes. So overall, there's like 152, 153, something along those lines, guys at the Senior Bowl. And most generally, again, you're talking like 80% normally get drafted. So you're already talking, just by basic math, 32 teams, you're already talking like 4 of these guys on every team. Like that's 4 to 5 realistically. If you're talking Shrine Bowl and the Senior Bowl at that point. So
but the other piece I want to bring, Travis, is somebody who's covered one of these all-star games in person, specifically the Hula Bowl. So it's not even one of these big name things. The opportunity you have to see how coachable he is, like screw these interviews at the combine. I'm sure they're important for their reasons. I'm not saying it's not, but watching how a player practices or how they take in information right there on the fly, working with a coach that they haven't before in a system that they may or may not know, right? That's the real job interview, in my opinion. If they're at those practices, hey, listen, you took 2 steps too many here. I want to make your cut sooner. Hey, I need you to do this and punch better with your left hand and here as you do this and move and make sure you chop your feet right. Whatever it is. I did that to get both the downfield air quote skill guys and trench guys both. But the punchline is, if they can respond and prove coachability, Travis, that's invaluable.
And the leadership. You can also get to see who's the leader among leaders.
Great point. Yeah.
You got all these green dot linebackers and all these leaders of their secondary and all these dogs and alpha males and older prospects together. And you get to find out who's the true leader among these guys who just met each other that week and can get these guys organized and get these guys communicating on the field in action when the guys are just trying to compete. And at the end of the day, that's something you can't fake. Like you have certain guys who might just be louder and everything else, and they may just come out there and try to give off the vibes that they are the leader. And then you have the guys who actually are the quiet assassins who just get the job done. And you know what I mean? Like
if you could prove leadership, if you could prove leadership in the all-star space, you're a dude among dudes. Because in the NFL, to be a leader, you have to be a dude among dudes among dudes, right?
So that's the point. So I thought it was also interesting that folks were mad about the frequency that the Jaguars take players from the circuit. And then I did the math and I was just like, wait a minute, that don't even make sense. Pure math says it's going to be 4 to 5 guys on your roster just from the circuit, just because of how many players are normally invited to both of these like rosters. Again, you got like 150 on one, like 130 on the other one. That's probably most of your top 300, maybe 350 prospects. Like cool. Like like coach general manager Chris Ballard, like he's notable as someone who's on the record as frequently pulling guys from the Senior Bowl. And I've often said that the coach supporting cast was always built well. If they had a quarterback, that'd be great. But right.
If they weren't getting Uncle Phil and Indiana Jones involved, they'd be fine.
Right. So like Duval, feel free to be mad about the draft. Like, because you're mad about the individual picks, but not like what did my shirt say I wore the day of the draft? Let's not focus on made up reasons to be mad. Like focus on, you got real issues that it actually exists. Let's focus on that. So go ahead.
No. What do I have to add to that? That's perfect. That's a good t-shirt. What did I say?
Yeah. So it was, no, man. So based on what this draft became across like the league, it really did feel like it just became a traits-based draft. And I said that the day after the draft was done, it was like, dude, at this point, it felt very clear that they just drafted guys who were giving them an advantage in a specific area. And now I can finally take some time to look at the actual numbers. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So with Nate Brokacher and Tanner Koziol, you got one guy who's 6'5", the other one who is 6'7". They're basically the same weight. Koziol's just slightly faster, running a 4.7 versus the other one running a 4.78. Generally, their PFF scores are in the same general range. They basically have the same contested catch rate, 75% versus 74.1. Nate Brokacher's quarterback rating when targeted is at 143.8, which is dang. That's not bad, but again, it's limited sample size. I know he had like 22 targets. I get it, but Tanner Coles was also over 100%, over 110 quarterback rating. And I've heard a lot of people were talking about the drop rate for Nate Brokacher after the draft because they were like, dude, he has a freaking 5% drop rate. And I kept hearing people saying it. And then I looked at the stats and I was like, wait a minute. This dude, yo, take a nap. Eat a Snickers. What are you doing? This dude has one drop. He has one drop on 22 targets, and y'all talking about a 5% rate. That's a statistical anomaly. One drop because he got it on 22 targets means it's 5%. What are we doing? Kenyon City Cub had a 10.5% drop rate on 67 targets. That's more than double Brokacher's rate. If he had the same number of targets, we've established that they didn't.
67 targets. That's a lot more than double.
And he's the top tight end prospect who was drafted way before Nate Brokacher. So I'm like, dude, y'all not talking about his drop rate because it doesn't matter because he got the targets. Brokacher just didn't get the targets in his offense as JP Acosta talked about on Wednesday's pod. The quarterback was inaccurate and that offense just didn't target him until the game was on the line. Then maybe they would.
Well, and let me add this, Travis. Here's where I think. Here's where I'm going to cut the Duval divers and the Duval devout some slack. You talk about traits, and here comes the PTSD from Trent Baalke. Right. Hey, dude's got big hands, dude's got big arms, or all the things that we've come to know and loathe.
Yeah,
when it comes to Trent Baalke. And you, Kyle, Travis just showed you a screen full of traits. Here's the difference, and it's subtle. This isn't me, listen, if I make this point and you still hate it, Duval divers, man, we are still so super cool. Make no mistake. But I think the difference here is these are traits with a particular purpose. What do I mean? Trent Baalke just generally liked dudes that did X just because they could do X. And I shouldn't say could do. Trent liked dudes with big hands just because he thought that was how football should be played. Durka. Yep. These guys are brought in with particular traits that because Jimmy Stone sees a trend in the NFL. One I might add to the JP Acosta's point, not mine, but one that he had observed in the entire butt whooping that was the Super Bowl runners-up, in my opinion, aka the NFC Championship game, because bump the Patriots. I said what I said.
Okay.
With the Rams and the Seahawks. These are traits with purpose. This isn't just big hands. This is dudes designed to lean into the trend of the NFL to overcome, as JP put it, these linebackers that are oversized safeties.
So you're not saying, you're basically saying that the difference between what Trent Baalke did and what James Gladstone did was one guy is leaning on traits that are related to football, and the other dude is leaning on traits that are related to traits that are related to the underwear Olympics, basically.
Which is,
long
by the way,
arms, big hands.
Point. It's a great point. I would add these two words: traits with purpose. And as you said it, football purpose, as it would work out.
Yes, the actual thing that we're here for. Otherwise, maybe I don't have the longest of arms, but I've shown on my film I can play football well. I think that might trump the long arm conversation, but that's why the Jaguars didn't get a guy like Hutchinson, right? Like, these are the things that, like, whereas the Rams, they'll pick a short corner, they'll pick a guy who's like, Darius Williams, just because. Hey man, I don't care if you're the right height or you're the right vertical. Are you a dog on the film? Cool. We'll figure the rest out. And the same thing applies for the Jaguars edge class, because again, they drafted two edges. If you want to look at Wesley Williams versus Zach Durfee, two guys, they're generally the same, height, 6'3" versus 6'4". We're talking within 9 pounds of each other. I mean, Durfee's actually like legitimately like freaking fast, 4.5, 5.40. You got one guy who's a better run defense, who's better at run defense. That's Wesley Williams. Again, that's what Jordan Duuuval was talking about, that interior rush plan. Whereas Durfee's a true pass rushing demon, frankly. Pro Football Focus pass rush grade is a 90.1. Again, we talked about him, Prospect X, ESPN's Prospect X for 2026. Durfee, in small sample size, he's been dang dominant. A 22% pass rush win rate, which is 11th in college football. Pass rush rate 15.6, and 4 sacks on 225 reps with 5 tackles for a loss. And again, Wesley Williams, his strength is in the run stopping area, and it's not bad. Again, a 12% pass rush win rate is probably below average in the class, but still fine if you were to get that in the NFL. But overall, still reasonably solid, especially with the 12% pressure rate. So overall, they have roles for these guys, if that makes sense. You can easily see the role for the guy. Balance Wesley Williams, balance defensive end 3 who gives you options so you're not like surrendering too much in the run game. Zach Durfee, pass rush specialist. You give me something on third down, I'm letting that dude go and seeing if he can give me some pressure around the corner. Maybe I'll put Trevon Walker inside. I can easily see the traits that they're looking for or where the boxes they're going to put these guys in.
And oh, by the way, let me go full Jimmy Stones on you and get some 4D chess in here. You're going to try to tell me you got a dude that size that runs a 4.55 and won't be on special teams? Shoot.
Yeah.
Come on.
But Brian Sanders said that, and I forgot to mention that in the last pod. That's funny. Well, because I meant to mention it, but I didn't, because it was actually part of it was a part of the Prospect X article. And I just never got to it. They said it directly. Brian Sanders, Jaguars, senior assistant to the general manager, to James Gladstone. Sanders had a vision for Durfee. Right defensive end, the ability to swing outside to Sam linebacker, and to contribute on special teams with his speed and length.
Gladstone I'm a terrible scout, and I can still see it. No, but please tell me why national grades matter. I'm sorry, champion, but you got me hyped.
Nah, that's funny because so Gladstone said, let's go ahead and just make the decision ourselves. Basically, they weren't going to let him get the undrafted free agency. They were going to draft him to make sure they got him on the team not to risk losing him. And it's funny you say that because, again, I need folks to know I did not talk to Nash about this at all.
No.
I did not show him that at all.
Why would he talk to me about draft stuff? I'm a terrible scout. I'm just saying.
Now you're right, but I thought it was funny that you came to the same assessment that James Gladstone came to, same assessment that Brian Sanders came to. Just looking at this dude,
I didn't even play defense. What are we talking about?
He's like, dang, he got those stats, he got that kind of speed, and they got that kind of length. Oh yeah, he should be doing both things. All right, that makes sense.
Technically, I did play special teams, though. I was on the field goal unit, but I digress.
Wow. So I need your feet to the fire. Your feet to the fire.
Oh boy.
Your house is on the line, and you gotta tell the guy on your hand is on the Bible. How about that? Whatever verbiage you want to put around it. Did Jacksonville fumble this draft class?
And here's the thing about this. As much as I've stood on business in this pod and talked my share of ish, be it on the national media, be it on criticizing some of the critiques, which some of the critiques are legit, guys. I get it. If you want to be you could have taken a shot to have gotten him at this point line. And listen, credit to Wig on Locked on Jaguars. He said it better than I could. You don't know that. You have no idea that those guys would actually be there, because the only thing we do know is that Jimmy Stones successfully predicted when guys were going to go on a run. If you believe, or I should say positions, not guys, when positions were going to go, if you believe the post-game press conferences, because again, the GM's not going to go out and say, I'll tell you, we wanted to drive tight end, but this run came out of nowhere. We had no clue what was going on. I don't think that's ever going to happen, but here's what I'll say. Did the Jags fumble the draft class? You know what the problem is? We won't know that answer until we see the season fall out.
I will only give you a small bit of pushback to say, and again, I'm someone who said that exact comment, that they knew when the runs were going to come. They seemed to map it out pretty well, and I still kind of stand by that, but also I'm not unwilling to acknowledge the other side of that argument from the fan base, that when they say What you mean? You know when the draft, you know when the runs were coming. You were the reason they came. You started the run at tight end. You
maybe that's why
literally
they
started the
know.
run.
We're gonna start some trouble.
If we start the run, then we can also pat ourselves on the back and say that we saw the run coming because we started it. And it's like it's a circular reasoning. If that makes sense.
This is why that's 4D chess. Let's pretend that was the plan. That way they can manipulate it to get the dudes they want. I'm just
also
saying.
True. You get the top choice, and also everybody else is reacting to you. That still don't mean that you didn't overdraft the person, but it also means that your plan seemed to work. Both things can be true.
Sometimes trolling is successful. Let's just throw that out. No,
not James Gladstone professional troll. That's dope.
The dude whose line is F them picks? No, it can't be him. No. No.
Man. But
again, this isn't me standing or defending. Yeah, in Stones, I certainly trust, but I'm going to be fully transparent. You know why I trust in Stones? It's one reason and one reason alone, Travis. He's not Trent Baalke, period. Point blank, end of story. Okay? So
and you don't get Liam Coen without with Trent Baalke here, like point blank period. Like they would not work together. So that's an easy conversation.
You're damn right. And all of the above to say, here's the thing, Travis, and I'm going to say it one more time. The only other thing that might be more of a drinking game than Frank Vogel or you bringing up the Rams or me talking about my Trent Baalke trauma is me saying this is the draft upon which Jimmy Stones will be judged. Okay. If the Jags come out here and win only 8 games, the seat will get warm, if not outright hot. I'm not saying that he's going to get fired.
Yeah, I don't think
the seat will get hot. Okay.
Right. Because I think this draft has the coaching staff's fingerprints all over it also. So and you're not firing. Like so that's the second part of that equation is like, well, obviously this is the stamp of the regime, not just James Gladstone. Obviously the coaches are in his ear. Obviously Boselli's in his ear. Obviously they're making this decision as a group assessment. So if they fail, they all fail together. And yeah, they'll have to figure out where they failed. But overall, I don't know that we're necessarily there yet because like I've said this to no less than, 4 people individually now in different conversations. Everybody want to be the Rams until it's time to be the Rams. Like that's pointing that finger at fans. That's pointing the finger at media. Everybody. We got folks out here in the media calling these dudes cocky, arrogant, and all other names that are obviously like things that would get most of us punched in the face in the real world if we keep that same energy.
Did Sean not get that? I'm just asking,
Well, he absolutely got that. But I'm like, but bruh, if you hire a coach and a general manager from an LA front office, it's because you want them to be run like LA was ran. But most people commenting or complaining about the draft haul wanted James Gladstone and they wanted Liam Coen as hires, but yet they know nothing about the actual Rams organization. They say they want Jacksonville to be like. I need folks to look closely at those 5 years of Rams draft classes from 2000 to 2005. Basically, matter of fact, here we go. Look at these draft classes that's not 2024 and not 2023 because those were incredible. And I'll show you that in a second. And you tell me that it's like, oh yeah, these were rough. Like I'm not going to say they were like just they were role players. Like Tutu Atwell was a good receiver. Ernest Jones. Again, they played their role, but none of these guys were a Hall of Famers. Not like for the most part, there's 2 great draft classes. Again, 2023.
You got a handful of Elmer's drafts right there, bro.
Yeah, and you've got 3 duds and 1 draft that's too soon to tell. Like again, that 2024 draft class, Jared Verse, Brandon Fisk. That's yeah.
You're still hurting about Jared Verse. I got
no, but then you got the 2023 class. You got Byron Young, Kobe Turner. Puka Nacua, Steve Avila, like you working real well in 2023 and 2024. But overall, you got again 2 good classes and 3 duds. That's the Rams that y'all say y'all want to be like. That means that you're gonna have some high highs and some low lows. All pros or guys most Jaguar fans just never heard of, and little in between. And I didn't even include the prior drafts where they selected John Franklin Myers, Cooper Kupp, or Aaron Donald. Like, I just think folks are missing the mark there. Like, if you want to ask me what the Rams' superpower is, what makes them great, from my perspective, it's not solely how good they draft, because the drafts can be volatile, as I just showed you. Similar to that old Legion of Boom Seahawks thing, and I mean, we had this conversation when we had Bo Crouch on, who's a beat writer for the Seattle Seahawks. When they were under Pete Carroll, it's not that they're always going to hit a draft out of the park. Like, that's what I was showing you guys there, is that they generally have a good system in place. It's that they're willing to trade for those imperfect players at a high rate, like Marshawn Lynch. And then they have a coach with a vision in place who's willing to quickly move on from those draft picks and free agent moves if they're not who they thought they were. Like, that's the key. Short-lived mistakes and quick evaluation periods. They quickly re-signed Jacoby Myers to a contract. They quickly signed Cole Van Lannon to a contract. Like, they will be quick to move off. I mean, again, the De'Ami Brown situation, you knew by the middle of the season that wasn't going to work out, and they stopped giving him snaps.
Bro, Fred Johnson, okay? Like, that's the example.
It's quick. Everything's moving quick. It's like corporate. It's like new age, modern corporate America. Everything is quick. And like a week before the draft, we talk about the Rams signing Bobby Wagner. That was a $55 million contract, and that dude wasn't on the roster the next year. They do in the words of Mike Tomlin, man. What do you say? I do not care. They do not care. It's about winning and winning. So did they fumble this draft? On the surface, it's easy to say yes while also saying I don't know. Like, the easy answer is yes. The more difficult answer is, I mean, maybe because they
easy. I would say the lazy answer is yes.
Fair. The lazy answer is to say yes. Say yes. They absolutely failed this draft, and then you could turn around and it can be any of these, and you would be maybe even right. Like any of that 2020, 2021, 2022, or 2025 Rams draft classes, you might be right. Because again, one of those, I think 2025 might be too early to tell, but also it's not looking right. We'll see. Or it could be one of those, 13 player 2023 draft where all of a sudden you got 2-3 starters out of it, and if your 5th round guy becomes an NFL great receiver, you're thinking a little different about the draft class. And that's the overall point. They're gonna have to develop them. We don't know what they have, but they did not think Puka Nacua was going to be Puka Nacua until he became Puka Nacua. So we got to give him time to figure it out.
He went from Puka Nacua to Puka Nacua. I got you.
Puka Nacua to that dude. Yeah, and that's what it's going to come down to. But like, did they fumble it? It feels easy, but if you're willing to withhold judgment and let them play it out, we'll see how they develop.
Puka Nacua to Puka that dude. I see you. Okay, I see what you're getting at.
But let me ask you though, in the draft, when the Jaguars picked Nate Brokature, I need your opinion. Final question. Little fire question. Who would you have drafted that was still on the board at that time? Because I've been weirded out about this one. When I feel like when I say I think people are being a little extra with these assessments, I'm just curious of who they would have gone with.
I think the best answer to that instead who would you have gone with? I think you and I were both sort of equally confused. Not equally. I think your confusion on them not going with corner was interesting. And seeing Igbenenson down there from Ohio State, 6 picks later, I think that might have been a direction they could have gone. That's one that comes to mind for me. Okay. Just looking at what actually happened. Granted, I am not a good draft analyst, but I'll put it this way: you're seeing the Bears at pick 69. Oh, right. And they picked up Sam Rouse from Stanford. Yep. We were getting him in mocks in the 6th, and I do not see Bears fans losing their mind. And if they are, I missed it.
That's what I was mentioning to JP on Wednesday's pod. Was like, hey man, yes, they started the run, and yes, you could argue that was the reason that things went out of whack and went crazy and everything else. But also, Tacario Davis, cornerback, he was going in the 130, 140 range. He went again at 72 to Washington. Oscar Delp went 73rd.
Cincinnati, but yeah.
Wait, huh?
Tacario.
Oh, wait, yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah, he went to 72 to Cincinnati to the Bengals. Right. But I'm just like, dude, this is crazy. So the fact of the matter is the whole draft was drunk. And it's not just Jacksonville. Folks might argue Jacksonville was the drunkest. but
hey, listen, if there's anything they're doing right in Duval, anyway.
Yeah. So, and a lot of people in Duval are obviously a little bit mad that the Jaguars didn't draft Anthony Hill Jr. That's the big one. Because I think there's nobody else on this list of people who are on the board that I think people in Jacksonville would have had a consensus. Consensus, yeah, of course. Would have been able to come to consensus that was on this board. And he's like the only person I truly believe that I think people would have been fine with. And honestly, I told JP Acosta before the draft and after our podcast the week before the draft that I wasn't a fan of Ant Hill. And that's not shade at Ant Hill. It was just me saying I thought he was a limited linebacker who very much gave me shades of Black Leo Chenal. And I thought Leo Chenal was a limited linebacker in free agency, which is actually why I told guys I didn't want to sign him in free agency, because I'm like, I'm not spending that kind of money on a guy who's going to need to be taken off the field. I just don't. I need a $3 linebacker if I'm spending that high of a draft pick, second round, or that kind of free agent money for him. And that's kind of how I felt about him coming in, a lot like an imperfect Devin Lloyd coming out of college. I know folks are like, well, if he's like Devin Lloyd coming out of college, then you should be comfortable replacing Devin Lloyd.
Completely
leaving the Jaguars.
How many years to actually do anything? And keep in mind, he only has one big year. Okay. As somebody,
not to mention, they didn't pay Devin Lloyd.
Oh,
that might mean they didn't like the limitations that existed and don't want to redraft another guy with the exact same limitations. That to me makes sense. So, man, that's kind of where I'm at the end of the day. So it was pretty much for the most of the fans base. If you're being honest about where you stand, you'll probably say it was Ant Hill or bust. Then maybe the answer was bust. Let's start the tight end run, I guess, because who else you going with? We could all come to consensus on.
Because, and we alluded to it during the draft episodes, I think who they wanted got taken away, regardless whether you think it was Jacas or whoever it was.
Yeah.
You know, they got pulled. Maybe it was Lee Hunter, and they were just as angry as I was when Carolina got him at 52. Cool. Okay. You know, maybe there was some panic. Maybe they were like, you know what? Screw you guys. We're starting to run on tight ends. Let's go, Tony.
Well, you know, I mean, they did what they think is right. Now, whether or not it's right, it's gonna be a whole nother conversation. But we're gonna all learn together. But
learn together. That's right.
Yeah, we're gonna learn today, or this offseason. But also, we got the new release dates for the rookie mini camp, and I believe that's like May 8th. So I believe that's like May 8th through May 10th.
Rapidly approaching.
Yeah, man. So you guys will be one step closer to seeing some, football in shorts. But we're there. Football's flying around, and that's still positive.
We've upgraded from underwear Olympics to football in shorts. Let's go.
Yeah, man. It's progress.
With that sentiment in mind, Travis D. Holmes, tell the world where you can be found.
Yeah, you already know. BigCatCountry.com. Definitely click that favorite on your wherever you favorite the site, and we get you guys all the presser outtakes or outcomes, all our evaluations from all the different practices and
national media just from reading them too, by the way.
Right. We're actually in the room asking the questions. That's a little bit different, so we can actually tell you if he was joking or telling you the truth, or what things we may have been hearing that's not being talked about on the actual stream. Like, just real conversations from people on the ground. But also
Mac Jones is a starter. Sorry, go ahead.
Jesus. But also, Travis D. Holmes on all the socials, the Duval Dive on X, on TikTok, etc. But if you listen to us on the YouTube side, man, click that like button. You see the thumb down there. It don't cost you no money to click like, but it helps us tremendously, man. This thing's only growing because you guys continue helping us with navigate this ridiculous algorithm, because I don't know how to stay in work, but they tell me if you click the like button, we get paid. So please click that like button, man. Help me. United Negro Fund. Help my family. Yes, you know how this goes. But bro, let them know where you can be found, man.
Hey, listen, at Days In, we don't know how this algorithm works. We just know you compel it to keep coming our way, and that's what we like to see, guys. Of course, I'm Kyle Nash, the student of the game. Find me on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at the SOETG. Find me on Facebook as the student of the game. Check out my work and writings with UCF Night Zone and Locked On UCF as I cover the conclusion of spring practice with UCF football, and also my work covering the Orlando Magic. Travis, what a time. I think we're ready to put the draft behind us as May 8th rapidly approaches. But just because we're saying we're not necessarily focused on it, please bring us any of your remaining questions, comments, concerns, opinions, or otherwise. If you think we're being too nice to the Jags and Tony Baselli and Jimmy Stones, let us know, man. We'll certainly respond. But listen, for all of you Duval divers and the Duval devout out there, for my personal champion, Travis T. Holmes, this is Kyle Nash, the student of the game. Until next time, everyone, class dismissed.